So we are recording. I took notes on this, but it wasn't anything like I was really dedicated one night to it, and then I think when you told me just how like successful this album was, I felt like a total dumbass. This album has won like almost every award imaginable in 2010, 2011.
I didn't realize how bad it was until I looked it up. I was like, because you said like, let's do this one. This seems like a nice little indie favorite, and I was like, yeah, I remember it being popular, and I think Spike Jonze had like made a movie based on the album.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just saw the album cover and I was like, I haven't never seen that before. And I was like, let's do that. That seems like a nice little thing that people probably haven't talked a whole lot about. And I felt like, wow, I couldn't have picked like the most like praised album. Like, yeah.
I'll admit I felt like an asshole at first, but then I listened to it and I was like, okay, this is a pretty good album. I see why it got the accolades it did.
I don't regret the decision of choosing this one just because listening to it I was kind of curious about your take on it. I didn't know if you were gonna say I can't believe I had to spend a week listening to this, but it was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I had listened to it when it came out, like not every track, but
oh yeah. I had no idea really who they were at the time. So we're talking about Arcade Fire's The Suburbs, which is a 2010 release, I believe. Yeah, 2010. But yeah, I had friends in like high school or middle school at the time who were really big fans of the band, and just based on the name alone, like I thought it sounded cool, but I didn't like look too much into them. No.
Yeah, and I mean you've heard like Wake Up and Rebellion from their first album. Like,
I don't know if I have. Like my whole plan was also to do like a backward search in their catalog to like look at like even after it. I know you texted me saying something about like later on wasn't nearly as successful. I think I was listening to interviews though that they went more of a dance route after this album.
I mean, successful. They're probably more successful now than they were, but I think as far as quality and like critical acclaim, I would say they've probably taken a major dive after The Suburbs came out, because then Reflector came out, which is like a staple of Urban Outfitters. Like, that album was in every Urban Outfitters and like Barnes and Noble and like I mean, good for them. Like they are not starving. But I mean, I don't know. I like the title track Reflector, but like I don't know, the rest of it didn't do it for me. And I never done a deep dive on like the whole Suburbs, like the whole like every track, but there was definitely like 3 or 4 songs that I've always like listened to like since it came out, like the Suburbs, the title track.
Yeah, it's a banger, man.
Deep Blue, that was the other one I listened to a lot, and then the Sprawl 2. Those were like my
the Sprawl 2 was that one. It slaps. Sprawl 1 was kind of a nice lead up to it, but Sprawl 2, I had that one. I think I played that one back to back a few times on my playthroughs through it. So had a few opportunities, long drives this week that I was able to put it on. But yeah, so just kind of taking a step backwards, this podcast that we're doing is we pick an album each week, and each of us gets a turn to pick the album that we're going to listen to, and then we both review it, we both listen to it, kind of take notes of our reactions of it, and then we come back without talking to each other in between that week, so we don't like pollute each other's opinions on the album in between, and then we come back on a Saturday or whatever day to record, and then we kind of follow up on our general thoughts on it. I think we said we're going to call this podcast Ear Burners.
Sure.
Yeah, I made a tasty little intro for us today. And I don't think there's anything else that makes me want to put on a pair of New Balance and build a deck.
Yo. We're back on 103.8, the fizz.
The fizz.
The fuzz.
with your host Pork Rind and Chubby Chubs.
Chubby Chubs. Ready for the next 10 hours of pure octane real rock. Coming up next, Imagine Dragons.
Sweet. Wasn't like the whole thing with Imagine Dragons, like that radioactive song, wasn't it just for commercial use for the Spider-Man movie that was coming out that year? I think it was the Andrew Garfield one.
I don't know.
I think it was. And then somehow through that they had success and just kept coming out with new and new music.
That sucks. They seem like cool guys, actually, but they,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, they make music I don't like.
Maybe that'll be one that we review down the road some point.
Oh, good. Yep.
I'll just pull that out at some point.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, it's ear burners, so we're gonna have some albums that are really good, and we're gonna have some that actually are probably gonna burn your ears off, I would imagine, at some point. So, like, we might throw it in there, throw a wrench into the spoke here and there, but no, I was pleasantly surprised with this one. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Some things that I wasn't, that I think my main, like, whenever I've heard of Arcade Fire, I imagine it would just be nothing but walls of sound. I guess I wasn't expecting as much driving force throughout it. Like, it had kind of the constant beat going through it, you know, had the driving chords and guitars and passages. I was more expecting just to have constant walls of sound, which it did have some nice moments in it throughout the album. But I guess that was my first main thing that surprised me about it. It was more sing-songy. It kind of, if you've ever listened to bands that are really similar in kind of the way that they sing and storytell, there's a lot of bands that take a lot from, like, Bruce Springsteen, for example. And I get a lot of it from this. Like Gaslight Anthem is one of them.
Yeah.
They kind of have a Bruce Springsteen kind of feel to it. And that was the first thing that came to my mind. Also, maybe a less high-pitched, like Kevin Parker from Tame Impala. That's kind of what I got from it.
Yeah, even more recently now, it's definitely like festival rock, I would say.
But no, I at first I was kind of scared because I was like, I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to listen to. And no, I actually really, a few tracks in, the vocals really did kind of take hold. You know, kind of like I had the same feeling when you showed me Mac DeMarco for the first time. I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like his voice, his vocal style.
Yeah.
I didn't know how well I was going to kind of grasp that.
I've never tied those two bands together, though. But yeah, I could see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I was listening to their first two albums, Arcade Fire, and like the first album came out in like 2004, and it definitely seems like it was a product of like that era, like MySpace kind of emo rock. And the first thing I noticed was how much the lead singer, is it Win Butler?
Win, I think, yeah, and then I think
He's got his brother in the band.
I think his brother's name's William. I think.
Oh, that's confusing.
It is confusing. I was trying to do some more research on them, but I think you're right. Win is the front man who's married to Regine Chasson. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, first thing I noticed was he was way more dramatic, and he had way more inflections on the first album than he did the Suburbs. But I don't know. I think it's because the Suburbs, it seems like it's meant for an older audience. Like, I felt like listening to it, like I paid attention to the lyrics, and it just seemed like it was for, like, I don't know, for someone in their mid-20s who is getting older.
So I can't even say I did a dive because most of my research was Wikipedia. And I watched a couple interviews, which were really interesting. But yeah, from Wikipedia, I gathered that the Suburbs is actually written about Win, and I believe you're right, Win and William, their childhood growing up in the suburbs, which I was actually, Win and William, I was actually surprised to learn that they're actually from Texas.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just a straight Canadian band, but no, they actually were from Texas, and they moved to, I think, Montreal, I believe is where they're based.
I don't know. I know the album is basically from the perspective of them living in Houston, which is funny because Houston is probably the biggest offender of like suburban urbanization. And,
Yeah.
like the cityfication like
Right,
of
yeah.
of America. Like I don't know, it really reflects like how this great idea of the American dream isn't so great, and how sprawling suburbs can lead to a kind of lifelessness and like an empty feeling that you may have growing up, as you know, you have all these dreams and aspirations, and but living there, and it can be very soul sucking.
Yeah.
And I feel like the album really encapsulates that in the lyrics, and just kind of tries to paint that bleak picture, you know, talking about abandoned malls and just you know, I was having trouble really like figuring out like kind of what the story is, because it was kind of loose in the lyrics, but it seemed like he had a lover who decided to move on, and
Yeah.
you know, he stayed. And you know, there's also little lyrics about just, you know, the pressure to get a, you know, a normal job and to like continue on that path.
The businessman gonna drink your blood, like the kids in our school said. Yeah. That was a pretty cool line. That was in the first track, right? In or Modern Man. Which one is that?
It's either Modern
Ready to
Man
Start.
or, yeah, one of those.
I gotta pull them up.
It seems like every song kind of went back to those themes. Like it didn't seem like conceptually like it mattered what order you listen to the tracks in. But
I agree.
I don't totally pay attention to lyrics as much as I did with this. So
I agree. So like I think it was "We Used to Wait" is one of the album, one of the songs in the album, comparing like you know, like children being stuck on school buses, you know, and he really you know, his storytelling about like I feel like I'm living in a city with no children in it. Like where's the life, you know, like where's the, you know, the fun and all that, right? And then what's so funny, like you said, like good thing you're making their money with like the Urban Outfitters scene. I think I was looking into some of the song meanings because I was really confused about Rococo. Because when I first listened to it, I'm like, why are they singing about Coca-Cola? Did they get like, that's what it sounded like. It sounded like, did they get like an ad deal with Coca-Cola that they're singing about Coke? And I guess that song is like, you know, I can't really elegantly put it, but I think that song is like almost anti-hipster in itself. Like they burn things down and then, yeah.
Yeah, I forget where I read it, but I read a few reviews, I'm not gonna lie, about this album, because you weren't, so I figured I could.
Yep.
So I remember one of the songs, I think it was either Modern Man or Rococo, but someone said it was basically them saying fuck you to their fans in a way, for like I don't know, you know how like there's, whenever an indie band gets a little popular, like the fans are like, oh, I knew them before they were big, and now fuck them because they're sellouts. It seemed like maybe that review was kind of referring to that as kind of them talking about their fans, which I don't know if, I guess you could see it that way, but I feel like that would take away from the theme, because it seemed like it really wasn't about them as a band. But that was an interesting take that I saw on that. But
yeah. No, I really liked the lyrics of it. Some of them were really, like I said, kind of going back to that Bruce Springsteen kind of like storytelling, you know, like each song had like a story from like their childhood. One of the songs he starts talking about like when he broke his arm or something as a kid in the suburbs, and yeah, it was nostalgic in a way. Like I didn't live that kind of childhood, but I definitely could feel that like they were going for like some kind of like nostalgia with it.
Yeah, and one, I think even the lead singer said it's meant to be an album, like it's like a letter written from the suburbs from that time.
Yep.
Because I don't know, their previous two albums, like conceptually, it seemed like they were trying to be so larger than life, especially with like their second album, Neon Bible, which really tried to take on some huge concepts. But this one, I feel like they stepped back a bit and kind of, you know, made something semi-personal, and, you know, just trying to kind of explain the mindset and where they were at in that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I did pull some notes directly from Wikipedia, kind of going off kind of what you were saying there. So it does say that the lyrics are greatly inspired by the band members and brothers Wynn and William upbringing in the Woodlands, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston. And according to Wynn Butler, frontman, he's really tall too. I don't know if you knew that. He's like 6'4".
Good for him.
Yeah. The album is neither a love letter to nor an indictment of the suburbs. It's a letter from the suburbs, which is interesting. So
I got indictment vibes though, honestly.
Indictment vibes?
Yeah, like it, I don't know. It feels like a very bleak album in a way.
It does have like like in something that I kept thinking when I was listening to the very first track, the Suburbs. It has a really whimsical piano intro with it sounds fun, but then like he hits that chord, and then it's like ooh, it has an edge to it, right? And then that main lyric hook in that chorus, right? It's so stingy and it sticks with you. Like I had it stuck in my head for days. But it has kind of this uplifting feel to it, but at the same time there's this kind of like a feeling of like unease, exactly, right? There's kind of like this dissonance to it, right? And they did a really good job at it,
and they bookend the album with that.
Yeah, I love that they did that, by the way.
Yeah, and how he said I wrote it down, when he says all the time that we wasted, I'd only waste it again. Like I felt that because there's times where I'm like looking back when I was younger and like thinking, oh, especially when you see like someone younger than you, more successful than you, you're like, wow, I really like didn't do jack shit. Like, and how did I get to the age I'm at now? Like, it seemed like it flew by. But then I'm like, would I honestly have done it any different? Could I go back? Probably not.
No. I wouldn't, and all that time, I spent doing stuff that maybe wasn't the most productive. Some of the best memories probably came from that, right? And whether it was a game, like learning the story from it, or just bullshitting with friends, like doing stupid stuff, would I be more successful? Yeah, but
yeah,
I don't have much envy for a lot of the people out there, anyways, that are like,
yeah, I don't have jealousy or like real envy, but it's like, wow, yeah, when I was not that motivated, even like last year, like we had all the time in the world, really. And I'm like, what do I have to show for it? Not a whole lot. So it's like, yeah, I totally agree with that lyric. Like, I would have wasted it again.
Yeah, and I tried recording a little bit, but nothing really came from that either. But like, I had all these plans. I killed a few house plants. We were going to walk the dog more, which we did, but not nearly as much. And I was supposed to work out more. I just saw my doctor yesterday, and for the first time in my life, I'm actually clinically overweight.
Congrats, man.
Thank you.
You're not normal.
I'm not normal anymore.
You are normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. I am normal.
Yeah.
It is normal. You're the one that's like a unicorn, like not normal.
I don't know. I weigh the most I've ever weighed, but...
Yeah, but like... when they weighed me and they told me how much I weigh, I was like, there's no way. I've never been this heavy in my life. Granted, this was like keys on my neck, full clothes and shoes and everything, but I was like 190. I was like, what?
What should you be?
Well, like I typically through the most of my high school, all throughout the time you knew me in college, I was only like 158. Like, that's significant.
For context, he's married and a homeowner.
Yeah,
and has four animals.
I've nested.
Yeah, so that's fine.
I've nested. So the album, go back to the album.
Talk about your weight.
Talk about my weight and my health.
I want to take this time to tell you I'm worried about you.
Okay. The album was recorded in Wynn Butler and Regine Chasson's residence in Montreal, with some parts being recorded at the band studio in Quebec and in New York City. And this is directly from Wikipedia. Wynn Butler describes the overall sound of the Suburbs as a mix of Depeche Mode and Neil Young, which I can kind of see that too. Like Neil Young, maybe Depeche Mode, with the moody synths and the stings.
Yeah,
and
I'm glad you read that because after I read that too, and hearing like Half Light 2 and even We Used to Wait. There's like this pumping synth behind it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely noticed that too. And it definitely is predictive of where they would go on with their sound, for better or worse.
For better or worse, yeah. I really liked what they did with the. I think that credit goes to, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there. You know, I researched the band briefly, but I know William Butler. He is like multi-instrumentalist. He even won awards. I believe it's William, his brother, won awards for the movie Her with.
Oh yeah, they scored that, didn't they?
Yeah, Walking Phoenix.
Uh-huh.
And he does like a lot of the synth stuff, I think, as well, and the drums, I believe.
Yeah.
Really, he's amazing on this album. Neil Young, I could see the Neil Young side of it, stating that he wanted the album to sound like the bands that I heard when I was very young and wondered what those crazy noises were. And it was released by Emerge Records in North America and by Mercury Records in the United Kingdom. And listening to the album, I can agree with this comparison, like I was saying. But I was talking earlier, like it definitely has kind of that, like, you know, bands that took from that Bruce Springsteen, has that Americana feel to it, you know, talking about suburbs, growing up, things like that as a kid in, you know, America. And also, I feel like Jordan would love this album. My wife, I think she would, because she's a really big fan of like Gaslight album and Bruce Springsteen. Like if I were to show her this, she would actually like really love this album, I think, personally, if I were to show this to. Now,
Are you getting a text?
it could be that. I'm not entirely sure. I think it went away. But one of the things I thought was interesting as well was not just Win or William, but Regine herself. She has a really interesting story. You know, when you're on Wikipedia and like you're like looking at stuff and you see something highlighted or like a word, and you're like, oh, I want to learn more about that. And you click it, and then you just go down like a rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. That's what I did with this. So for the record, like outside of this album, I probably haven't listened to anything by this band. That's something that I'm going to probably do after this.
You would know a lot of songs by them.
Just by hearing it?
Yeah, if you've watched any coming-of-age indie movie in the past 15 years, you would hear it. Like, did you see The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
You know, I might have. Is that the one with...
Ben Stiller.
I think I have.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Like it's like the theme of the whole movie. That's Arcade Fire.
Oh, you know, going back to the, one thing I was really worried about this album is that you would have a lot of that millennial yelp to it. The yelp, you know, the millennial whoop kind of sound like
the Lumineers.
Yeah, the clap, stomp, whoa. Yeah. The whole genre back in the day, stomp, clamp, whoa, clap, whoa. Yeah.
But go back to Regine.
Yeah, Regine. So she was born in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and grew up in St. Lambert, a suburb south of Montreal. Her parents, who were of Haitian origin, emigrated from Haiti during the dictatorship of Francois Duvalier, which is alluded to in the Arcade Fire song Haiti. Have you heard that song? Mm-hmm. I need to listen to it. One of my homework assignments for myself before this podcast was to listen to it, and I didn't. So I will definitely be doing that.
God damn it.
I know. And this song isn't in this album. Where she sings a line, I just thought this line, like as I was doing my deep dive, she sings a line where in Haitian Creole translate to "My unborn cousins haunt Duvalier's nights," followed with "Guns can't kill what soldiers can't see." The line is in reference to the relatives who were killed during the, and pardon me, because I'm probably going to butcher what this actually says, but Jeremy Vespers massacre, which had occurred in August, September, and October of 1964. And it took place after a group of 13 young Haitians calling themselves Juin Haiti landed on August 6, 1964 at Petite Rivière des Dames Marie with the intention of overthrowing the regime of Francois, also known as Papa Doc, Duvalier, not to be confused with Papa Doc from 8 Mile.
What the fuck?
Fuck a Papa Doc, fuck a clock.
Wow.
Okay. The victims were killed one by one by the Haitian army until the last 2 survivors, Louis Drouin and Marcel Numa, were captured alive, brought back to Port-au-Prince, and shot in public against the cemetery wall on November 12, 1964. And again, this was gathered directly from Wikipedia. That's the source I'm using. However, this video of this execution is actually on YouTube. I did watch it. It's not for the faint of heart. It's truly terrible, but there are these things that do float around the internet, maybe for the sake of history, but yeah.
You know what I love? That
What?
you went that
Yeah.
deep dive. You deep dived into one lyric versus listening to their back catalog.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, that's great though.
To me, that just kind of speaks to just kind of like how cool and how how much depth is in the actual people in this band. Because I was just expecting a band that's just like, we were a bunch of buddies that kind of like met and like, oh, we like music, let's like, yeah. But no, it was
Yeah, they're very thoughtful.
Yeah, they're very thoughtful, and they have interesting backstories, and her vocals on this album I love. Like I think like Sprawl 2 and Empty Room.
Yeah, she definitely steals the show when she's on.
Oh yeah, like if anything, I just want a whole album of her personally.
Yeah, it's a nice
like,
break from him.
I like Win, but I would love just nothing but Regine. Like her vocals are amazing, and it has that driving feel. It has a nostalgia to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, if there was a weakest link in the band, it probably would be him for just, I guess, the variety that he shares on this album of like his voice. Like, it's always in the same kind of.
I was gonna say that,
except for Suburban War, where he kind of gets a little more emotional, which I wish.
I agree,
and that's what. It's probably because that was all he did on the first album was kind of show that emotional side, and maybe it's because of the concept of this album that he sounds more tired, I guess, because of the album's about him kind of being older and whatnot, versus his more youthful like presence on the first album. Because it is 6 years older, that album, from the Suburbs, so it might be kind of tying into the theme that he would kind of sound more tired and more aged in comparison.
Yeah, I agree with you from the beginning of that. I agree that to me it started to sound a little samey, and it was just like, okay, and the same thing happened to me again going back to my Kevin Parker comparison. If you listen to any of his albums, just like, okay, we have the same vocal, same pitch, it's just kind of running a line.
Kevin's probably worse though.
Oh yeah,
he's probably like, you take the reverb off. Oof, I don't want to hear what that sounds like.
Where he so to Wynn's credit, he has a good voice and he knows how to use a good vibrato. I agree in the Suburban War. It does sound like he does put a lot more emotion into that. Like he's like wailing at a certain point is what it sounds like. But like in Suburban Man, like
Modern Man.
Oh, Modern Man.
Yeah.
Sorry. As interesting as like the song is, and how much it kind of keeps you on your toes, like it has that uncomfortable feeling. So I don't know if you had the same thing with Modern Man, but as I was listening to it, I was just like, where's that beat coming from? And I was like, I had to listen to it. And it was just like I was counting the snare hits because they were on 2 and 4. I was like 2, and then I was like, where is that? And then I had to look it up. I'm like, this has to be like 4/4 with random 5/4. And it is. And I like, that is such an interesting thing to do because it kind of keeps you on your toes, right? It switches things up.
And it's like one of the only things that would keep that song from being boring.
I agree.
Yeah, because I would say, I don't think there's a song that I think is particularly bad, but I would say that's probably the one that I'm like least happy to hear when it comes on.
That one reminds me the most of like, how I made my like a Mac DeMarco kind of, like, I don't know, like that's the Mac DeMarco song of the album. That's my take.
Okay.
That's my take. I don't know. I agree with you.
Because it's simple, or
because it's, I don't know. I think just the way, I don't know. It makes me think of like I'm listening to like Salad Days or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and one thing that I love about Arcade Fire is like how they layer and how they are willing to make change-ups mid-song.
I agree.
Add, different elements to it.
It goes down a field you didn't think it was going to, right?
Versus like, a lot of songs are verse, chorus, and it's the choruses from one to the next are the same, where they like, well, let's bring in this instrument, or let's make, like, let's tweak it just a little bit, change the drum pattern. Maybe the bridge will take a different turn and will bring the chorus in. Like that's peppered over the whole album. And I think my least favorite songs are the ones where they don't do that. So like Empty Room kind of is just kind of the same going through. Modern Man, I don't remember how it ends, but a lot of the other songs I do remember how they end, or they just have little subtle differences that
I do have to say with Empty Room, going back to like Regine, I do love the way that she jumps in with her vocal line in that track. You know, it might be kind of that structure like you're saying.
That it's a good song. It's just, I feel like, you know, they do a fade out at the end, which I think is sometimes a lazy way to end a song. So I didn't like that. I feel like they could have made it bigger, especially when you compare it to Suburban War. Like that song has like almost 2 different bridges in it, and then the outro is just, you know, incredible.
Yeah, and a lot to the credit of the album, like a lot of the songs do fade directly into the next song. So
yeah, I love that too. It's like it's very thoughtful. They said this was an album that you can put on and listen to front to back, and it'll mean more than, you know, just taking it track by track too.
Yeah.
So what is your least favorite song?
Let me look at the track list again. But I just pulled up the lyrics to Empty Room. But like when Regine comes in with that vocal line, the "When I'm by myself, I could be myself." Da, 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 da. It's so it's free. And then the guitar wail after that. It's so perfectly layered, like you said. It's great. I loved it.
It's very shoegazy.
It is. Yeah. Like I listened to that, I was just like, oh, this is really good. Let me look up the album tracks just to see if I can point out if I have it, because I don't know if I have one. To be fair, you know, I did listen to every track on this song. I think I spent a lot more time with the first half, and then I listened to maybe the other. Like I was driving to my doctor's appointment, for instance, and I was listening to this, and
where they told you you're fat.
Yeah, they told me I'm fat. They told me I'm dying. I have so many days to live.
So you put the Suburbs on. That's good.
Yeah. I had to go back to my hometown to see my doctor, and he told me I was fat. And
oh, you went to your hometown and listened to the Suburbs to your hometown, which is an album about your hometown growing up.
I was gonna get a burrito after, but he told me I'm fat, so I didn't.
You should have got it.
I should have got it.
Yeah.
No, I did. Truthfully, it's because I was supposed to have a client, and I didn't have much time to stop and get food. Is my justification for that? The client didn't show. I didn't think it would, but that's beside the point.
Could have got that burrito.
I should have. They had a lot of road construction. That's my other excuse.
See, that's perfect. Like with the theme of this album is that day that you had.
Yeah.
It's like, I should have got that fucking burrito.
Should have got that burrito.
Yeah.
And that's been my tradition, too. Every time I go see that doctor, I go to the same Mexican restaurant and I get the same burrito.
Oh, was that place we went to?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, I love that place.
And that was right after Wendy's.
Yeah, anyway.
Before Wendy's, yeah.
Wendy's when you...
Yeah, don't know. It was the same day. Yeah. We'll talk about that. But anyways... No, because when I see my doctor, he gets labs, and he takes like 3 big vials of blood out of my arm. So instantly, I think I'm just craving meat. I need to get the iron back in my system.
So he took weight away from you, so you could go fill back up with a burrito.
Yeah, he took some pee too. So
Took your pee, man. He took everything.
He took. Okay, so if I had a least favorite. Again, I'm not the most... I love Sprawl 2. Sprawl 2 is great. Sprawl 1 is a little, as the parentheses in the name goes, flatland. It was a little flat, I have to say. I didn't...
But they're aware, so they know this is like an intro.
That leads up to what Sprawl 2 is, which is just a banger.
The true closer of the album, too.
I love that song. It's so great.
It's iconic.
Hours.
Well,
Month of May was fun. I think Month of May was... It had more of a punk sound to it.
Yeah, I would say... for me, that song and Modern Man are like a tie for my least favorite.
I would say I like Month of May better than Modern Man. I listen to Modern Man more just for the fact of trying to figure out the time signatures change and all that.
Modern Man.
Did I keep saying something else?
I thought you said Month of May. I don't know.
Modern Man. Yeah.
But like Month of May, it just seems like it was such an outlier because he was trying to like he was doing the same like vocals that he normally does, but he's trying to be like like
Yeah,
I don't know.
It had more of a drive to it than Modern Man did. Modern Man was more of a snooze fest.
But I feel like as far as the driving songs on the album, like Ready to Start is such a perfect example of like them trying to do a
Building.
driving rock band type song, where Month of May, it just didn't have
agree.
like the end, it didn't have the build-ups that Ready to Start does.
Ready
Like,
to Start is really good.
that song's
so.
incredible, and I feel like I didn't give enough credit because that was the song I heard when it came out as a kid. Not as a kid.
To start.
I was in
It's
high
so
school when this
good.
came out, but yeah, that was one of the first songs I think I heard from
When he
this
comes
album.
out, because he holds off that line for a long time in the song. When he says it, it's just like, fuck yeah.
Yeah,
Hit the gas.
and it's Hit the Gas, and
Yeah.
and Empty Room's another one where it's a driving song.
Yeah.
But by the time Month of May comes around, I'm like, okay, I've heard you do this drum pattern before, and they even like turn all the instruments off, and it's just
Yeah.
There's no fills. It's just like it's just them trying to be a like I don't know a punk band like you said.
Yeah.
And they've done this in later albums. They did it on Reflector, and it was even well. Did they do it on Reflector? I'm thinking of when they try to be more rock, and I don't think it's their thing.
Okay. You know, I would think they would be going back to that shoegaze. You know, I think I would have loved a lot more of that like space to it. I think because that's what I was expecting. I was expecting a lot more just heavy like because they do have
Layers.
good layer. They do have good layers, but I was expecting more of kind of that trippy kind of like spacey type.
Yeah. Like on We Used to Wait before the chorus.
Yeah.
They have like what 16 bars of just build up before they go into that chorus, and it was so like well timed, where I think a lot of other bands who would do something similar, they would say, well, we can't let our listener hang that long without lyrics. So like, but they did it, and I thought that was so well timed, and it made the chorus so much more dramatic once it came in. But yeah, Month of May just
Didn't
I
liked it.
like, I guess I liked that they tried it, like, but I feel like if they had put more thought into it, like the way they did with other songs, it probably would have hit harder. But like, I don't know. And to have it like between Wasted Hours and Suburban War, which I think are pretty powerful songs, like the middle of the album, I think is really where they shine. I don't know. It seemed like that was kind of the you know what? Fuck that song.
That's how we feel about that.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to give them the BOTD, benefit of the doubt, but
No.
it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's probably my least favorite on the album, though.
But honestly, even just being like least favorite, you know, still enjoyable tracks to listen to. You know, if it's on, I'll listen to it. You know,
I wouldn't
and-
turn it off.
No. Again, kind of going back to Modern Man, like it's a good storytelling. The rhythm's interesting, engaging. The build up to the chorus is still kind of, I'm trying to even think about what the chorus to Modern Man is. How does
Modern Man. Or is that the verse?
that's the verse?
What was that chorus? Where most of the time you remember?
Yeah, it's true. It doesn't
Like we used to
stick.
wait. Ooh, we used to wait. Oh, I cracked.
Or even like the first track, freaking
Oh
the
my
Suburbs.
God, yeah, dude.
I still can't believe it. I'm moving past the feeling. It's like it's like I can't say I couldn't sleep, but like I was like laying down like and like that sting was in my head. That ba 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 da da. It was like it's just so good.
What's interesting is like the song Deep Blue doesn't really have a chorus. I mean, they say la 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 la, but you still remember that song.
Deep Blue was probably one of the ones on the second half of the album that I didn't spend enough time with. I definitely listened to it, but like talking about it, I'm drawing blanks. Truly.
Okay.
So
La 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 dun 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 dun. La 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 la.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's kind of similar to the title track too. So I used to get them mixed up, but I was like, I never remember what that chorus is because it doesn't really have one. Where, some songs are kind of built like that, where the verse is more important. Like, with Modern Man, he talks about being a modern man in the verse, which is probably what you remember the most about it.
I thought I was gonna have an aneurysm trying to listen to that song. Truthfully, I was like, like what like.
Yeah, but you listen to Between the Buried and Me.
I know,
like
I
no
know.
aneurysm there. No one taught them how to play in 4/4.
What's cool in the credit of Modern Man is the way that they tuck in that fifth beat.
Yeah.
They tuck it in, like they pull the rug under you from you with each time they do it. It's like it like makes you kind of go like dun 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 dun, and then you have to like kind of go back a bit. They do it like in a way that feels natural but also unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't like affect any, like they just pull it off really well. And that's
honestly, that's probably the biggest like tie to the rest of the concept of the album that they had, was like that unease, like you said, with the title track. I mean, just this like, it sounds happy, but is it?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it that happy? Are things that good?
Probably not.
Because they're not.
They're not.
And the lyrics kind of tell you that too.
The world is shit.
Yeah. It's a little dramatic. Especially like this album's about living
how
in.
bad was it in 2010?
Yeah. I thought about that. Like, I need to really check myself that this is the album I relate to the most.
Right.
When, like, I don't know, it's about not poverty and, like,
right.
Like, probably had a good childhood. Like, yeah, just, I don't know. It's a different type of soul sucking.
Yeah.
A lot of albums I like, it's like, oh, I can't make ends meet. Like, we never talk about that in this album. Like,
right.
It never says I'm poor. It's just like, yeah, I have to work a shitty job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just miles of homes that look the same, and you can't walk anywhere. You're car dependent. It's not that bad, but it's its own type of bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Where because what's the flip side? You live somewhere rural, or you live in the inner city, which those. Did your dog just throw up?
I think so. Hacking up. Are you okay, Louise? Have you been there this whole time?
Aw.
Hi, Louise.
Dude, I gotta piss.
Okay, we can take a break.
All right, we'll take 5.
All right, and we're back. Yeah, I listened to Deep Blue a little bit. Yeah, I remember a little bit more about it. Yeah. It's more piano driven than I remembered. Yeah.
Yeah, the piano's really live.
And his vocals are definitely a little bit more interesting in this one. Like he gets a little bit more into it vocally in this one too.
That's something I didn't really think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit more unique. Like you were talking a little bit about what song was it? Oh, the Suburban War. This one I think he does a little bit more inflections with his voice, so it doesn't sound as samey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because if you just listen to this album, you would say he might not have the vocal chops, but he totally is capable of it. So I feel like it was just like a conscious decision for the concept of the album to make it more like kind of lifeless in a way. That's like, that sounds like a negative term, but I feel like the lack of trying to like show variety must tie somehow into like being tired and aging and reminiscing about all the things you didn't do when you were younger and just feeling stuck and all those types of concepts. So I would say it, like, if they're as thoughtful as I think they are, that was a decision that he made in preparation for this album. Yeah
No, I think a lot of thought and a lot of insight was put into making this thing. I'm really glad, having listened to it. I was listening to it. I was like, not only did it break up kind of the monotony of what I've been listening to, it kind of gave me kind of like a refresher, kind of like a nice little palate cleanse. Because I do kind of what I typically do, and I know I've talked to you about this before. I'll go on weekly kind of like even like seasonal changes where I'm listening to things like, but it's usually the same thing. A lot of, like Grateful Dead, Dead and Company, and then I'll switch that up. I'll listen to a lot of metal between The Buried and Me and other metal bands. So this has actually been, I'm really grateful that we did this because it's been a really nice refresher for me to listen to something new, and to find something that I really like, because I like a lot of similar music kind of in the same vein as what this was, like not like on the nose, but like I really like Helplessness Blues and this Hopelessness Blues, whatever it is. I think it's
Oh,
Helpless.
Fleet Foxes. Yeah.
Some of the vocals, kind of the way that they push the reverb on it, like how like Fleet Foxes has that perfected, the way they do it.
Yeah, they do for folk what Mumford and Sons wishes they could do.
Yeah. But like I even got kind of a hint of that in this, and I was like, oh man, I think that's what I've been kind of missing, is kind of like a band that's refreshing, kind of has a drive to it, has good storytelling to it. So this has been a really good, granted, I didn't know we were going to be responding to and reviewing something that has such like accolades and awards to it. And I feel like a dumbass for that. I was really thinking, like, I'll say it, like I was being ignorant. I thought we were really going to listen to something that like, nobody's listened to this thing. Nobody's going to have any serious opinions about this.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson.
I guess Arcade Fire is not a bad example. What maybe we should have done was listen to Neon Bible.
Okay.
And
maybe someday down the line, maybe.
Yeah, because I think a good theme for like this whole experiment is to like pick albums not talked about, but maybe by bands that are popular. Like, like that's a forgotten album that I think is in this weird transition point for the band. It's not their best by any means, but I think it's an interesting angle to take for like kind of how you look at an artist. And maybe we should do more where we dive into their body of work, but maybe pinpoint one of those albums like that.
Okay.
Within the context of who they are as a band, which for Arcade Fire we would have to listen to a lot of music though. Yeah,
there's a lot of influences here, a lot of stuff, like I was saying,
like a lot of their their other albums. Like I don't think like the new ones we really need to care about that much, because I don't think they're very good, and if anything they hurt the band more.
Okay.
As a whole. But
so of all albums to choose, I picked the right one.
I would say this is probably their best. I mean, I would like if someone who grew up with Arcade Fire, they would probably say the first album is, just because
that's the one with the, and I see it all the time on that patrician group, the one with the flower, not the flower, the feather.
The feather, Funeral, it's called. It's like, so it's very melodramatic, and if you were in middle school or high school growing up and you heard that album, that was your album. In the suburbs would be like, oh, that's a nice thoughtful album, but I think like I'm familiar with the band. So like I knew those songs, but I still feel removed from them as a listener, and you definitely do, because you're an adult man listening to them now.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we would gravitate to the Suburbs.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because we have our albums growing up.
True. Yeah, we already have.
Probably
that.
aren't their best, but they were the first one we heard.
True.
So that's the ones we stick to the most. Where I think Funeral was out for a lot of people growing up.
Yeah, like maybe like I referred to at the beginning, kind of like some friends I had who were big Arcade Fire fans. Like when I was like in middle school, I never knew who they were. In my mind, when I heard the name Arcade Fire, I thought it was like, it's a band that has like a bunch of like silly sounds and like, video game noises, things like that. That's what I thought, because the name's Arcade Fire. I was going directly off the name. So I was like
Nintendo Core?
Yeah.
Like Horse the Band.
Kind of something like that. But then like I was saying earlier, like I was really pleasantly surprised today to learn that, this is a band I could listen to almost any day, just pop in and listen to. I really did love this album.
Yeah.
I know I'll revisit it. I'll probably show it to my wife, because I think Jordan would really like it.
Yeah.
Because it does have, because she's a big fan of like Gaslight Anthem and Bruce Springsteen and all acts that kind of sound similar to that, piano and singing and things like that. I'm not like dissing her because I enjoy listening to these things with her.
Simple
as well.
shit. He's trying to say.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't require thought. No.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I gotta say, when you told me I would need to listen to this album all week, I dreaded it, and I said, "Oh fuck!" And I do like, I like those 3 songs I mentioned, the Suburbs and Deep Blue and the Sprawl too. But like, I was like, "Ah, fuck!" Like, I gotta go back, and I'm like, "This is boring." But later on, I was like, "Oh wow."
Was it nice to revisit?
Yeah, it was very nice. I
Good.
was really surprised, and especially like how I took to the lyrics. It was, I'm 27 now, so I mean I'm getting older, and I feel like it resonated with me, and especially in light of like, I don't know, like it definitely holds up today too. Like I feel like a lot of
things are trying to replicate kind of that too, but yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people younger than us probably feel this way too. Just like, especially with like COVID, like just feeling like they're stuck in like their mundane lives and that they can't fulfill their dreams. And
with the second wave of shit that's going around with the Delta variant and everything, and like I was saying this a lot last year, and it's almost I've almost become jaded to this whole thing. Like I've kind of accepted the fate of it almost, like which is sad.
Yeah, it's great.
But one thing I was saying a lot last year was like anybody that had any like desire or plans or like major goals, there was a lot of disappointment and a lot of that stagnation there. It's like, and then you have a lot of people saying it's like, well, this is your opportunity to create, this is your opportunity to expand. It's like we're kind of stuck here, we're depressed, we can't see, we can't socialize like we wanted to, we can, for people who are like big into like because I know you had a lot of like opportunity to talk to people online and get like a like for a lot of people who are into that, like I don't know, like I explored some creative things too, but
personally I feel like I created less than I've ever created in the past year.
And you're not the first person that I've heard that from.
Like, I thought it would have been the year, but I think what helps people is variety, and we are devoid of that. So it's like, you have all the time in the day to do whatever you want, but, you get ideas from not doing what you want to do, like different creative avenues. Like that interruption is really good for you, like to go to work and be thinking about a project you're going to work on later. Like when you're just sitting at home, all you're doing is thinking about that, and then you start getting writer's block. So I think that lack of interruption kind of squelched a lot of creativity.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. No, I'm really excited to see what kind of other things we'll pull from this, though. I know you had a list going, which is going to be like just to give you guys kind of an expectation of this. Like this is probably going to be like this is the pilot, this is the first that we reviewed Arcade Fire. I think we're going to have a lot of variation between what me and Brock pick. Brock's probably, I know you showed me a list of a lot of cool different bands, kind of more in like the post rock, kind of like metal kind of. Sure, yeah. So I don't know, I have to keep looking at my list because I might so there's gonna be a lot of variation on this. I'm really excited to see the kind of things. I think mostly I'm excited just to listen to new music. I know through the course of our friendship, that's one thing that I've always asked from you is just like, what are some new things I can listen to, because I tend to gravitate towards the same things. And you've shown me a lot of good bands that I listen to still today. So yeah, I think it'll be a fun little experiment, like you said.
I have to pick something too.
Yeah. What do you think we're gonna do for the?
Fuck. I don't know, man. I have to look at my my list.
As a final review of the Suburbs by Arcade Fire, I don't think we should do the Fantano 1 through 10. I don't think that's fair.
No, I don't think so either, because a lot of it's a retrospective. So
right, I see this episode more as being just a reaction to
dog shit or not dog shit.
Dog shit or not dog shit.
Yeah, it's either yes or no. Like That's
It's
a
real-
harsh rating.
That's a harsh rating. It's
Yeah.
not. It's a good album. I rate it as I would listen to this with my family in the vehicle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it stands as something you can listen to intently and enjoy it, and also passively, and it still be good. Where a lot of albums require one or the other.
Right.
Like if you're like, sorry, Drake, but if you put on a Drake album, try to like focus on it, you're like, kind of weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like, like if you want more from it, it's there. There's lots of layers, instrumentation, there's lyrics, there's that are compelling. There's a concept. The songs tie in together. You can listen to the whole album in a sitting and find a lot of reward in it, or you can pull out track at a time, put it in your little indie rock playlist. You'll have a good time like that. I mean, it definitely is geared toward any type of like listening that you want to do for it. And also, I think in the past 10 years, it's probably the best represented Grammy win of any of them. Like, in any of the winners, it's probably the closest like match to like what people liked to what actually won. Where most of the time,
Yeah.
I would say it's usually what's commercially successful and what's
That's a good
safe.
point.
And I think they somehow hit the nail on the head there and like hit that sweet spot. I mean, sure, someone else could have won and maybe an album I would have liked better, but I think as far as what's won, it's definitely the best album that has won.
I agree. And, I wish I can go back to that 2010 me and like slap them around and be like, why do you live under a rock? But,
You're a metalhead, man.
I was
you
a metal-
definitely were then, so that's why it
Yeah.
wasn't on your radar.
I didn't explore a lot of that type of music then. You're right. I was more into like the heavy metal, maybe more emo scene type of stuff at that time. 2010 was like what, sophomore year for me
Yeah.
of high school, I think.
What's hard is like alternative rock is so not defined, where like metal, you're like, it has all its subgenres that you can just
Pick around.
where it's like everything's under alt rock, and it's just hard to find that sweet or that album that you like, because everything, two alt rock bands sound totally different from each other, so it's hard to find a good thing. And if as far as being a rebellious metalhead in high school, are you going to listen to a Grammy winning band?
Right.
Yeah, you're probably like, that's pussy shit. I'm not going to listen to that weak band or Fire.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't blame you.
I think, yeah, I so maybe I should look at it as I'm glad I listened to this as an adult, with a more, I could grasp it a little bit better and understand it better now.
Yeah, because
listening
I don't
back
think
to
it would have hit as hard then either.
Probably not.
The Funeral would have, because it's like, more emo, more melodramatic, and, I think
Yeah.
that's why they got the fan base they did, was from that album. Suburbs is for the aging modern man.
Dude, we're getting
or
so
woman
fucking
or
old.
whoever.
I get up every day and have more cracks and stuff, and like cracks and like bones and knees, and my jaw feels like it's still like I still have really bad problems with my TMJ in this jaw where it hurts to chew sometimes. Yeah, and I'm getting fat. So this album resonates with me quite a bit.
Anything else?
No. Luckily, everything else is functioning. Luckily.
I'm sorry I'm laughing.
No, you're fine. No, yeah, no. The high blood pressure. Yeah, like yeah. So no, I'm lucky. Everything else is functioning. It seems like my hair has decided to stop receding for a little bit.
That's good. What about your sex drive?
It's okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
That can be fleeting.
No, everything else seems to be okay. So, but this album resonated with me. We just moved. I didn't grow up in a suburb though. That's not really the childhood I had. I grew up on a highway in the middle of LaPorte.
Yeah. I feel like you don't have to be in a suburb. Like, it's more of a statement about like middle class modern living, and how
I get it.
sounds like it's a great idea, but it's devoid of life, and it leaves you almost empty inside, even though it's what so many people dream of getting to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't live in a suburb either, but I might as well have.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, it's like your two-stall garage, your white picket fence life.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it definitely isn't city life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Arcade Fire, for reminding me of how hopeless we all are.
But we enjoyed listening to it. It was nice. It was a nice break.
What a sour note to end on.
Well, it kind of ended that way too, and like it bookended it, and it kind of left us with that kind of feeling too.
Yeah, I didn't feel like we were peeking above the trees to
No.
the morning sun coming up and like hope of a better tomorrow. They did not give us that.
I hope they make a new album as they get older about like what their life was like in like middle age, and just like
hopefully it's not a bunch of dance pop bullshit. like
is that what they kind of became? You don't have to pull it up. That's fine.
I'm just sad. Like, it just seems like different people took over the band, but they didn't. Like, that's what's surprising about the Suburbs is like how were they so relatable, and now like just in the face of all this fame and money and accolades, how could they ever write an album that relates to today like they did with the Suburbs? Like,
oh my god.
yeah, that was 5 seconds. You can leave that in.
Yeah.
Oh
wow.
Yeah, so let's not do an album by them in the past decade.
No, this is going to be probably, I'm going to predict, I can't say set in stone, but probably the last time we visit Arcade Fire. But the first time we do the show, we visited them. I enjoyed it. I'll probably have this one play at some point in the future. And I'll probably recommend it to some people who might be looking for something new.
Definitely not a bad first episode album to review.
No.
Because it's not like we... there's some ones I want to talk about, but as far as, it's a good one to, like, get our chops down for, like, talking about.
Yeah.
Like, because, there are albums I really want to talk about, but, we're still figuring out the podcast thing, so
Yep.
do we want to, like, throw our best work out there?
No.
Yeah, so, I mean,
It will only get better.
It will only get better.
Yep. And the music will, too.
Unlike living in the suburbs, this will only get better.
Fuck the Suburbs.
Fuck the Suburbs, man.
So do you know what what we're gonna review next? Did you look at your list?
Oh fuck, bruh. I don't know. Should we do something heavy?
This is up to you. This is entirely your choice. This was my choice to do this one, so I'll get my pick.
It was.
It was a good choice.
Yeah, it was a good choice.
I liked it.
It is funny how, like, I don't know when it happened, but I was like, whoa. Okay, this is kind of good. I was kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Especially when I looked up.
I kind of had like I told you, I kind of was afraid that you did have kind of this resentful, like, maybe like not like blatantly resentful, maybe that feeling of just like, what the fuck, Trevor, make me listen to this shit.
Like I've been listening to it all week, and like I know I took Rachel somewhere, and I was like, I have to put on Arcade Fire. I was like, do we have to? I was like, yeah, you're right. Fuck this.
Do we have to?
Well, like she saw them at Lollapalooza with like her ex-boyfriend now, and they played that one song.
So she's
and
got
she's like, yeah, I got trauma from this, so like I don't blame her. Like that's hard.
You have Arcade Fire trauma. I get it. That's
it was
fine.
the new album though, so I was like, they were different.
They were different.
But
they used
it.
to be a piece of shit. Sorry. No.
Yeah. So.
No.
Yeah. Whoops.
No,
Yeah,
I did. Not to beat a dead horse. I did like this album. It was a good album.
Yeah, it was.
It was good to learn more about the artists involved, the history behind the band.
And I feel like we learned more about ourselves in the process.
Maybe. I learned I'm fat. That's what I learned this week.
You're not fat.
That's what Jordan was saying. She's like, the body mass index is fake.
It is fake.
Thank you. I know I definitely jiggle a lot more than what I used to.
I mean, you are more filled out,
Thank you.
but it's not a bad thing.
Okay. Yeah, this is probably the biggest you probably have ever seen me, but it's all in my gut and my legs and my ass. That's where it's all going.
Daddy thick. Yeah. Well, I don't think I have any other thoughts or lingering
No, I think we
ideas
did a
on
good job.
this.
No.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, let me look at my notes. Yep. No, I'd say we covered everything.
Yeah.
You know, this was good because like it was hard for me to envision how we would talk about an album for this long. So I think we did a good job.
We did a good job.
Yeah. All right.
What's the next album? Pick.
I have to pick on the Air.
Yeah. So that they know what to look forward to.
I have a list. I'm just looking at it.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, it's hard because I'm like, so I do albums that I'm like a big fan of, like.
That's a good point. Maybe something I haven't heard.
Yeah, I was definitely gonna do that, but like, should I do something that I'm like super familiar with? Like, where's my?
What the fuck is rattling down here? What is that?
Is it your AC?
Might be. No, if you noticed, I had to put cardboard in the windowsills down here because the cats kept getting in the drop ceiling. And like I was literally sitting down here trying to record the intro track, and my cat Aggie like fell through the drop ceiling. So I had to board up pretty much the windowsills here because that's how they were getting in there. So
that sucks, dude.
they were jumping off the desk. I had cats in my ceiling, dude.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, let's. All right, we'll do one of my favorites. We'll do Altar
Okay.
of Plagues,
Okay.
Teethed Glory, and Injury.
Altar of Plagues, Teethed Glory, and Injury.
Yeah.
I think I've heard you mention this band to me before.
It's one of my. I don't want to say it's my favorite black metal album because it's a little more experimental, so it's not your traditional. But like, I think there's definitely a lot to love in it. So
Okay, good.
We'll do that one.
All right. Okay, so that's what we're going to do this week, and then we'll be back with a review / reaction to that. So again, this is Ear Burners. I'm Trevor Day, and this is do you want anonymity?
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
I'm Brock.
Okay, well, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Do you want anonymity?
Anonymity.
Well, there's like thousands of Trevor Days. Like,
That is true.
there's only one of me. That sounds pretentious. There's only one person with my name. That's me.
Brock.
Yeah, you're Trevor Day. Like, there's few.
There's quite a few if you go
Yeah.
on like Facebook.